My friends, good day. Attitude during the job interview. So it's very important. Attitude is the way you behave, and it will be the reason why you'll be judged consciously or unconsciously. And people will keep an impression of you, and you want them to keep a positive impression. So, first thing, I'm going to give you some advice. First thing, you'll be judged even before you speak. You'll be judged by your clothing, already by your appearance. So, when you go to an interview, always make sure you look very presentable. There are rules depending on the country, depending on the company. I know that, for example, in the United Kingdom, you always dress in a suit and tie, including in tech companies where people work in flip flops, shorts, and t shirts, is not a problem. By the way, when you walk into a room where an interview is taking place, you immediately recognize the candidate because he's the guy in a tie, okay? Even though we can't blame you if you want to show up in flip flops too. But at this stage, respect the cultural codes of the country, the industry, and the company in question. So find out about that. First, second, when you enter the room, don't come in running. Calmly, relaxed, don't run, don't speak quickly, shake hands firmly, look people in the eyes. You see, that's very important because what we often see in interviews is that people are nervous. So I don't blame those who do it, but people do it without realizing. People, they're stressed, they have a shaky handshake, or just like this, they touch and let go, sweaty hands. Or there are others who crush your knuckles on purpose to try to overcompensate. In both cases, people are nervous, and a firm handshake. Look people in the eyes, keep eye contact. If you lose eye contact, don't lose it like this, lose it like this. Look to the left, to the right, then come back to the person you're talking to, look them in the eyes. All right, don't look in their eyes all the time because it can be seen the wrong way. You see, it can be intimidating for some people. Adapt to the person, do it. But at the same time, if you want to break eye contact, don't look down, look to the side, you see, and then come back to the person. Another thing, when you sit down, I was saying that people will judge you before you speak. When you sit down, try to sit properly in your chair. Face the person. You see, your body should be facing them, not like this. You see, face the person. I don't know if you can see it clearly. I'm sitting fully on the chair. My back is against the backrest. What you can do as well, it might help. I'm not slouched against the backrest. I'm not touching the backrest. Why? If you touch the backrest, we all want to lean back and rest, right? But the risk with that is that you might slouch, okay? Look, if I try to lean back on the backrest, I try to rest on the backrest. Over time, after half an hour or 45 minutes, I'll slowly end up slouching without even realizing it. All right. So, what you need to try to do is keep your back parallel to the backrest. Okay. Keep your back parallel to the backrest, about 2 centimeters away from it, but never actually lean on it. So, instinctively and naturally, it allows you to have a straight and clear posture. So, you're sitting upright facing the person. We can see your hands. We can see the palms of your hands, not just your hands. They're not like this or like that. There are people who put their hands where you can't see them. Some people put their hands under their thighs. They put their hands like this, under their thighs. And sometimes your thigh does this. No, we don't do that, okay? We're here, we're honest, we look at the person, and our hands are visible. And actually, what I'm telling you here applies not just in an interview, but also in the end in everyday life, all right? Whatever situation we face in everyday life, whether it's for a job or something else, it's important to have and to project something positive. So when you speak, always think before you talk, let the other person finish. First of all, because it happens very often that candidates in an interview feel like they're afraid of silence. And there are people who, even in social situations, are afraid of silence, afraid of silence. In this sense, when someone asks me a question, and if there's a silence, you see, if there's a silence, it makes them panic. So if it makes them panic, what do they tend to do? They tend to fill it, to occupy it. So they tend to say the first thing that comes to their mind, just to fill the silence and speak quickly. What does that create? It creates an impression of nervousness. and it increases the risk of saying nonsense. It increases the risk of saying things and then leaving the interview and saying, why did I say that? What was going through my head? So relax the person. You have to let them talk. You have to listen to them. You listen to the person. When the person finishes talking, you think, there's no problem with thinking. All right? And then you answer the person and you don't answer quickly. You don't just try to put as many words as possible in a very short time. Because that creates the impression that you don't have confidence in yourself. Why? When someone is confident, they will speak slowly. Why? Because they tell themselves, anyway, people are here to listen to me. They're not going to leave. They're not going to run away before I finish my sentence. At the same time, someone who is panicked, who is very nervous, wants to quickly tell you a lot of things like that because they know that at any moment you might switch, you might change the channel. So they will speak quickly. Okay, speak calmly, try to practice with your partner, practice with your friends, with the mirror if you have to. Learn to control the tone of your voice well and control the flow of your words, especially when you're stressed, because people, when they're stressed, tend to speak quickly. Okay, another thing, when you listen to people, know that an interview is not a police deposition, it's not an interrogation. You're not there to just sit and endure a barrage of questions, answering every question, responding instantly. That's not what it is. Watch the movie Garde à Vue, Michel Serrault, with Michel Serrault as the main actor, and of course, Lino Ventura. Watch this very interesting film. It's called Garde à Vue, and I think police custody is a very interesting game. I was once in police custody. Well, they let me go at the end of the day. But when you're in police custody and you have a cop in front of you, another one sitting over there. In the back, there's another one behind you, and another one who doesn't speak, just taking notes. I can tell you that it creates a lot of pressure, and I think it's a very interesting training because once you've spent a day in police custody, after that, when you go for a job interview at Oracle or Hewlett Packard or Dell or Microsoft, it feels a lot easier because it's not the same level, right? It's not the same level of aggressiveness. But at the same time, the psychological mechanisms or tools are the same, even if the intensity is much lower. So, as I was saying, you listen to the person, you answer the person, and then don't feel obligated to answer every question either. It's not a game, if you will. You haven't taken an oath, and not everything you say will be held against you. In reality, everything you say in an interview may be. So you're not involved in that, and when you say something, they won't call the police to check. You see, they're not going to look at the surveillance cameras. They're not going to check fingerprints. They're not going to call the forensic police. No, it's not going to happen like that. So you can say things and you can also hide certain things. Because it's not a truth game. It's not a game where someone asks you a question and you have to answer no. There are a lot of questions. There are a lot of people asking questions, a lot of recruiters who aren't actually professionals and who might allow themselves to ask too many questions. And to go beyond, if you want what's considered proper, to go beyond what they're allowed to know and not know. So you have to control that flow and don't feel obligated to answer every question. Don't tell them, no, I'm not answering that question. But if you feel that the question goes beyond what you want to say, for example, like we talked about in the last video, the question, why did you leave your last employer? The relationship between me and my last employer, the contract, the salary, our arrangements, all of that is confidential, it's private. So you can ask a question, I'll answer you vaguely, but I'm not going to go into detail. You don't have the right to know the details. So this question is borderline. I know everyone asks it, but it's borderline. So when you answer it, you don't have to go into detail. Another thing, ask questions. Why? Look, with the police, if you ask a question, they'll tell you, I'm the one asking the questions. Why? Because the one who asks the questions controls the conversation. But what you want in a job interview is to be in control, not to be the guy who just takes it. You want to have a degree of control. Because in reality, yes, you came all the way here, they set the time, you traveled, you're nervous, all that. Yes, we know that, but you also have to assert yourself with a form of control, and that form of control will come from you. Also by asking questions. And that's what you do. You ask the person a question and you listen to their answer. People like being asked questions. So you ask the question and you listen to the person, you let them answer. After that, what you do, very important, you follow up. You follow up on what the person said. You see, by following up, you create a connection. You create a connection with that person. And you also take back a bit of control of the conversation, which you don't want. The failed interview, I'll tell you right away, the interview is failed. If you walk into the room, you sit down, you go through a barrage of questions, you answer all the questions, you take your briefcase and you leave. If that's how the interview goes, I'll tell you that in most cases, you're going to get a rejection email. So you also need to learn to ask questions and not just at the end, not just at the end. When they ask you, so do you have any questions? No, you need to ask questions throughout, create interaction, interact with the person. She asks you a question, you answer, throw another one back. Even if it's just a clarification question, clarify that for me. What exactly do you mean? Yes, earlier we were talking about this topic, this project, this technology. How do you see it evolving, for example? Do you use it? I imagine you use it in your company. How do you see it evolving in the next 5 years? Because I read some interesting articles, maybe you've read them too on this subject. You see, you're creating very important interaction, not just a rapid fire of questions and then you leave. So you always have to answer clearly, okay? When you answer, answer clearly, answer calmly, without stress, and then finish by throwing in a question if possible. I'm not saying that with every answer you throw back a question, it has to be natural, but regularly take back the flow, take back control of the conversation. Another thing, also very important, that ruins job interviews. It's people who have over prepared. Why? Because people who over prepare don't leave room for spontaneity. It can kill spontaneity. But in an interview, what's important? The impression you want to leave. If you want to leave a positive impression, it won't be. You won't do it with how should I say, you won't do it by repeating things you've memorized. That won't get you far. Let me give you an example just like that. That comes to mind. Let's say you're preparing a speech about strawberry pies because you're sure they're going to ask you about strawberry pies. You know that this company, their main business is strawberry pies. They're known for that worldwide. So you've prepared for days and days. You know everything about strawberry pies. You have a text this long. In the conversation, we're getting towards the end. He didn't even mention strawberry pies. And let me tell you something. People who prepare questions often leave interviews disappointed because in 90% of cases, the interview doesn't go as you had planned. Mentally, it means you've prepared answers, you've repeated them, memorized them. At no point will you ask questions that match those answers. But here's the risk. The risk is this. The guy asks you a question about pizza. That's it. You were expecting him to talk about strawberry pie, but he's talking about pizza. You're surprised, but maybe they're opening a pizza department. And that you didn't know. You ask a question about pizza and you answer like this. Well, yes, pizza. I really like pizza. It's an extremely broad subject, extremely interesting. I've worked with pizza in the past and also with strawberry pie and strawberry tart. And you go with the strawberry tart. You see, that's just an example I'm giving, but a lot of candidates do that. A lot of candidates. What they do is they've prepared their answers so much that if the question doesn't come exactly as they wanted, they end up throwing out their answers all over the place. An answer comes, there you go. It just comes out, they say anything, and it creates the impression that the person is out of touch. You talk to them about something and they say anything. They say things that make no sense, answering in directions that are a bit unexpected. Okay, then you shake their hand, say goodbye, thank you, and that's it. It's over. It's very important to leave room for spontaneity. It's more difficult. It's like I said, bouncing back on the question. Ah, yes, bouncing back on the question. Yes, but that's not easy. Do you prefer to prepare questions on a piece of paper, memorize them, and throw them out all the time? That's easy, but it's not good. It's not good. That won't get you far. That kind of thing will create a shallow conversation. It won't create a conversation that flows. A conversation that's natural, a conversation where people actually remember things, that's going to create a totally fake conversation. First of all, the whole interview process is a complete sham. So, on top of that, if we have to add pre prepared questions or answers and just throw them in randomly all the time, it's only going to make things worse. If we show up unprepared, that's not good. I know the company, I know my resume, I know my technology, I know my job. We talk, he asks questions, I let him speak, I answer him. I also ask questions, I want to listen to him, I want to hear him out, and I respond to what he says. It's much harder, you see, it's much more difficult because it requires being in the moment. You see, instead of statically learning questions and answers and just throwing them out, you see, that's it. That was just an overview. It was just a few tips I wanted to give you regarding the job interview. Very important, the attitude, okay? And my book, Toxic, is now available in Audible audio. All right, I'm the one reading it, actually. Okay, it was by request. Thank you, my friends, for listening up to this point, and I'll see you in the next video. And good luck if you're going for job interviews.